guess where we're sitting right now? We're sitting in the corner where our cat litters normally are. It's usually one, two, three. Now it's over there. And right before I hit record, one of our cats decided to just go and do
Mm,
his business. So right now,
it smells divine, is what she's trying to get at.
yeah. Let me tell you a story. When I first started out as a coach, I was trying to land my first deal, trying to sign my first client. I thought at the time that I just need to know the right words. I scripted everything down to the T. I'm like, this is what I'm going to open with. And then I'm going to say this. And then I'm going to make sure they know that I'm super professional, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So there I go. I was on the gym floor. And I'm scouting. And I started a conversation with this lady who was doing some lat pull downs. And I just go up, hey, hi, I'm Kat. I'm a trainer here, things like that. And briefly asking her what she wanted, what she's looking for, what are her goals, etc. She briefly answered, and then I was like, all right, here we go. I start I start my pitch. I said all the right words. I even threw in a lot of technical jargon, and I thought I landed it. I memorized it perfectly. I looked over and her eyes were like this. Well, I don't need to say more that I did not sign the deal that day. And so I didn't really know what happened for the longest time.
Mm,
Like, what was the problem? I knew all the words.
mm.
I said it with confidence, and I don't know what went wrong.
Well, I think the short answer is she just wanted to do her lat pull downs and you caught her mid set.
I mean, that I'm sure.
But I think, no, what you're saying, I think it's, the classic trap of delivering any kind of message or overscripting something, right?
Mhm.
You think you're there just to say words, and the words are going to land. They're going to convince the person. You're just going to communicate information, and really what is being said is the most important thing. But I think often we lose sight of how we're saying it, right?
Yeah, I think like
Yeah.
there's more and more literature pointing to how behaviorally people don't actually respond to facts.
Yeah.
You see that everywhere now. You see that in like political debates, you see that in other debates, and even just a regular argument or
Mm,
it's just discussion with a friend. You can state all the right facts, and they might very well be so true and blatant.
mm,
But that doesn't quite mean that it's going to convert the person or
mm.
they're going to then be like, you know what, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the classic insight that's becoming more and more common now, that you don't really gain much from winning in a debate. You don't really gain much from being the dominant one in any kind of these exchanges. Like, all right, you won. You got your point across and you own the other person. And then what? You just kind of go home, you sit on your chair and you go, yeah, that was great. Uh, no, and I think that communication, it's a two-way street. It's reciprocity. It's trying to obviously get your point across, but at the end of the day, we have to pause and ask, like, what does this person in front of me, what are they all about? What do they want? How are they feeling on that particular day or in that particular moment, right?
Well, it is context, it is subtext, and all that stuff. I think what is not talked about as much in the realm of communication, I do think that it's on the rise. There's a
Mm,
lot more addressing
yeah.
not just what to say, not just how to say, but let's look at beyond what's said.
Beyond what's said.
You know, which I do think it's still a very new
Mm,
thing that's being explored in the communication space.
yeah.
But bringing in how do we look at body language? How do we look at vocal tones and like different cues, non-verbal, non-linguistic cues
Mm,
that would give us more context to be like, all right, is this conversation going the way that I envisioned, or
mm,
is it going sideways?
yeah.
Or are we actually mutually going in the same direction?
Yeah.
All of these stuff. And I will say that there are more communication experts out there that
Yeah.
are addressing how do you hold yourself
Yeah.
in terms of my own presence, in terms of how do I sound more credible? How
Yeah.
do I look more polished? There's plenty of that. Um, but I don't think that there's as much of like looking at from both my perspective and how do I read the other person?
Mm.
And then how do you draw kind of context? It's like, okay, I see that they are doing, crossing their arms, or they might be furrowing their brows just a little bit.
Trademark
Um,
sign.
yeah, trademark, or for you have a permanent line, which,
It's intentional, but it's not intentional.
well, that's it. And so it's like, what do you do with that?
Mm.
Do you then kind of freak out? Because say that I'm talking to you and I didn't really know you.
Mm.
And then I say something
Yeah.
and you kind of furrow your brow and then I start freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, does he not like what I just said?
Yeah.
And so there's so many layers to communication
Mm.
that is beyond what's said, which is why, like, me as a performer, I've been performing for a long time. I see this a lot in how do you embody a character in a very realistic way. And then I start seeing that parallel to real life. Well, that's really ultimately what acting is about, is
Yeah.
how do you portray it as realistic as possible?
Mm.
And so why not bring some of that toolkit into how do we decipher, analyze a real world conversation so that we can potentially minimize some misunderstanding
Yeah.
and missignaling and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think you brought up a really important point. The communication space right now, or the kind of communication science gurus out there. There's a lot of great books. There's a lot of great podcasts, resources, but often, it's about optimizing your message. It's about crafting something that's uh, sort of specific to the situation you find yourself in. Am I talking to a friend, a coworker? Am I delivering a presentation? How to communicate in an emotionally intelligent manner. Um, and how do I connect with people, right? How do you communicate so that tensions don't get out of whack, and tensions can kind of simmer down a little bit. So there's no shortage of that out there, but I think what we're trying to address in this podcast is really the deeper context of all the layers that can exist in all these sort of different possible scenarios you find yourself in,
No,
where you have to
absolutely.
deliver a message under conditions that are wildly different, right?
Yeah. And wildly dynamic in real
Yeah,
time.
in real time. That was the key thing I wanted to bring up as well, is that reading these books and even listening to these podcasts, the dynamism of conversations and like the fluidity of a conversation, there is a lot of that's being addressed. But what we're really trying to get to here is, yeah, how do you navigate that in real time?
Mm.
Right? You can obviously practice and rehearse and script things, but what are some cues you can read or strategies you can pick up to sort of find ways to navigate these situations in real
Yeah.
time? That's what beyond what's said really means.
Yeah, and it's not just with, say, like a one-on-one
Mm.
conversation or communication. It could be one to many.
Yeah.
Say that you're doing a presentation or you're doing whatever. It could be audience of one to audience of
Yeah,
1,000,
exactly.
and the principles could stay. Because like, oh, let's say like room of 1,000 people,
Mm.
and you can't exactly pick up on every single person's facial expression and cues and all that stuff. Like, that's
Yeah,
exhausting. No, but
exactly.
you can feel that energy.
Mm.
And again, that energy is something that is beyond what's said.
Mm.
What kind of energy are you carrying? And then what kind of energy are they reciprocating with?
Mm.
And you can use that to navigate your conversation and communication style.
Yeah,
And so we do want to focus on how do we read that in real time, as well as how do we adjust in
yeah,
real time. And then how
exactly.
do we regulate ourselves? Because quite frankly, a lot of times you will find, especially in difficult conversations or
Mm.
when stakes are high, your body will just take over.
Yeah.
You start freaking out, the shake starts happening, all that stuff. How do you regulate yourself
Mm.
so that you walk away still feeling very much in control of
Exactly.
yourself and the situation and the outcome?
Exactly.
So hopefully by the end of each episode, you'll be able to walk away with a little bit more understanding about communication insofar as beyond what's said,
Exactly.
as well as some actionable and applicable tips and,
Mm.
and strategies that you can try and use in your next conversation.
Yeah, I think that we bring a lot of things to the table here that allow us to talk about communication in a really authentic as well as multidimensional kind of way.
Yeah.
We've worn a lot of hats. You've worn a lot of hat yourself as a performer, as a coach, as an
Small
educator,
small business
small
owner.
business owner. So you've had to, convince clients to get on
Oh,
board
yeah.
with your services and what you're all about?
Yeah, because I've been a freelancer as well. As an artist, performer, you're never unless you're the top 1%,
Mm,
you're never just a performer or just an actress or just a
yeah.
dancer. And so, having to advocate yourself,
Mm,
that's kind of what the biggest takeaway from all these different hats is like, how do I communicate in a way that advocates for myself and,
mm,
what my value is? And it really is a journey of discovering kind of
yeah.
like what do you stand for? What are you worth?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. But for you as well, like being in
Mm,
academia and
mm.
also a competitive athlete, even to now, like
For me, obviously, I spent about a good decade plus of my life in academia, trying to make it as an academic historian. And that was really the business of selling yourself,
that
selling your
is
ideas
that is
primarily.
hard because you're
Yeah.
selling ideas to a bunch of really, really smart people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
convince them to say that, "Hey, my ideas are worth listening to?" That's
Yeah.
a level of communication and reading them and, like,
Yes.
knowing your audience, who you're talking to
Mm.
be able to pitch that to them.
And, the thing that we did time and time again in academia under the guidance of the many mentors that I had, it was almost like the elevator pitch, like summation of your PhD thesis, your project. You can communicate that in a grant application, in a job application statement, or in any kind of digital paper form. But at the end of the day, a lot of your time is spent convincing people at conferences and in one-on-one exchanges in the seminar room.
It really is, like, beyond, like, just words because you could
Mm,
say all the
mm,
fanciest words, hitting
yeah,
all the nuanced topics or
yeah.
whatever, but they kinda will just be like, "Cool, yeah, I already know that."
Well, and what's funny is that often what landed the best, at least in my field, and the audience will get to learn a little bit more about my field, what I was in, my work, but often the most successful moments I've had was when I was concise, I was brief,
Mm,
and I made a conscious effort to distill my message into something that just anyone right down to middle school, upper elementary could kind of understand what I'm trying
mm.
to talk about.
Ironically,
Yeah,
yeah.
there seemed to be a thirst for more transparent communication of these very abstract, rarefied ideas. And I think the same can be said about my time in international education. I'm currently, right now, in international education. I'm a psychology teacher first and foremost, hence my passion for all the things we talk about in this podcast. But it's you were talking about self discovery. You discover yourself. You get to know who you are, and you really learn how to advocate for yourself. And we're all about that, right? But it's also about alignment. It's about
Mm,
aligning yourself with the people in front of you in
yeah.
these moments, whether high stakes or more open, kind of low stakes. But yeah, that's like being a teacher. That's like you got to align with your students and their energy, and you got to
Well,
match
that's
them,
right.
and or else you're just going to have a terrible day and your
Yeah,
lesson's just going to fall flat. So, like knowing who you are and also
knowing your audience.
knowing your audience and that alignment process, that matching, we're going to try to get the audience to get to know that process because
Yeah,
it's worked out for us in these various situations that we'll get to chit
that's
chat
right,
about.
that's right, and so, it would mean the world to us
Yes.
that if you could like and subscribe to our channel,
Hmm. You
we're
do a
this is
heart.
our
I can't.
heart,
There you
half
go.
a heart.
That
Here, we'll
one.
do the thing.
The shoulder.
Are we doing
There we go.
it?
It is aging
I can
millennial moment. Sore.
we are just from the corner of our litter boxes,
Sure.
and, our cats might show up from time to time. Would really be very encouraging for
Yeah.
us to see that our voices
Yeah.
are valued and that people want to hear from us, and that would be amazing.
And
So
reciprocity, like what do you guys want to hear from
oh,
us?
yeah, absolutely. If you have situations or things that you want to learn about or want to talk about and be like, hey, I ran into this situation in terms of communication. I don't know how to handle or navigate
Mm,
that. Please comment below. We'd love to receive like questions and
yeah.
ideas and thoughts and feedback.
Mhm.
And eventually, we will have a more dedicated space for you to email us. But for now, comments or DMs would be great.
If you just want to see the cats,
We'll
we'll throw more of that in at
Yeah,
some
we'll make
point.
sure we feature them a little bit more prominently. All right.
Alrighty.
We'll see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.